A mother's heartache.
It was hard to even do anything.
A state trooper found shot lying on the side of the road.
He didn't answer or talk to me, but he did pick up his head, and he was patting his chest.
And a murderer taking his own life behind bars. It's a story that shocked a small town. A state trooper conducting a routine traffic stop gunned down and left for dead. And it left his two parents grieving the loss of their only child. But that pain was just the beginning for Pat Butterfield. Silence, a familiar sound for this mom. The only sounds echoing off the walls of her once vibrant home are memories of the life she once knew.
I'm just starting now to get back into doing things and putting things together.
Pat can't soon forget the chapter 2.5 years ago that began to unravel the threads of comfort in her happy home.
I remember we got home and we weren't in the house more than, maybe 10 minutes.
A man in uniform at her front door delivering news that still plays out in her mind. Pat's only son, Michigan State Trooper Paul Butterfield, had been shot and left for dead on the side of the road in rural Mason County on September 9th of 2013. Butterfield had pulled over 19-year-old Eric Nyes. Following protocol, he called in Nyes' plate and location. It would be his last call back. Nyes shot Butterfield in the head as he walked up to his truck. Butterfield died in surgery later that night. Nyes found guilty of first-degree murder, but would later kill himself behind bars, leaving yet another wound on Pat's heart, now facing the death of the man who took her only child's life.
You can't be happy, you can't be sad, it was really, it was something that you can't explain to people, like, oh yeah, I'm glad he's not with us anymore,
She and her husband, retired state trooper Paul Sr., were left to tackle their grief together.
I mean, we've lost our son. I mean, there's, how can you ever, replace that? You can't.
And then Pat was dealt another blow.
About 9 months after Paul died, or was murdered, my husband lost his battle to leukemia. So, yeah, that kind of left me to take care of the rest of the things.
Things that were once easy for a couple, but now alone, a new challenge.
So we decided at that time to establish a scholarship. And we talked about it, but then Paul's dad passed away before we could actually get it into practice.
Pat made it a reality. Any Michigan State Trooper or member of their family can apply to receive $1,000 towards their education.
Last year we were able to supply 3 people with a scholarship, and I'm hoping to do the same this year.
She hopes the scholarship will create more troopers like both her husband and her son, who she never thought would follow in his father's footsteps.
As a little boy, how everyone says, well, I'm not going to do that because of my dad, because of my dad. But yeah, it just turned out that way. Yeah, it was kind of unique.
And she hopes her beloved son's story will be shared for years to come, as her cherished memories are the only thing to deafen the silence of her broken heart.
People call him, I guess, a hero, but, he was a hero because of how he lived, not how he died.
David Custer, WNEM TV5. A gentle wind blows on a snowy afternoon. Outside this home, a peaceful song echoes off the cold front porch. Inside, a single mom shares a warm cup of coffee with her daughter.
Michael said it was a good movie.
The home belongs to Tammy Werda. Her husband, Trooper Jeffrey Werda, killed in a crash after joining a pursuit. Tammy talking for the first time about that day and how she and her daughter are getting by.
It doesn't really matter how many years they're gone, because they're supposed to be with you.
5 years have passed since Tammy Werda's seen her husband smile, a smile she misses most of all.
His laugh, his smile, he was always happy.
Jeff killed in April of 2011, driving at a high speed through Birch Run Township when he lost control of his cruiser, crashing it, killing him.
There was a chase, and he was going to back up a different department in the chase.
It was always like Jeff to help out. After the accident, strangers approaching Tammy, telling her the kind things Jeff did for them.
It's nice to hear the people appreciated him as much as you did.
Tammy says people need to appreciate law enforcement as the majority are good people like Jeff. And she's keeping Jeff's giving spirit alive, starting a memorial fund giving scholarships to families affected the same way.
We're all family. It doesn't matter what department you work for or if you're a fireman or EMS. It doesn't really matter. They're all helping each other.
And she believes Jeff is still around helping her. Every time the wind blows,
It's Jeff. Those are from his funeral.
she knows Jeff's close by.
And they seem to always go off when we're doing something for him or talking about him. And even my mom has a set that we got, and she said she was sitting on her porch and thinking about him, and she said there was no wind at all, and they just started chiming.
David Custer, WNEM TV5.
Siblings don't get to come up. And
Erin Wolf is planning a trip to our nation's capital.
one of the hotels, this one.
A trip she never imagined she'd have to plan.
I know that God has a plan, and He has a perfect plan. And I am just a small instrument that He's going to use in His plan. And actually, Chad felt the same way.
Chad, her husband, her college sweetheart. The pair met in Pensacola, Florida, and became inseparable. They moved to Michigan to start a family and allowed Chad to chase his dream of becoming a Michigan State Trooper.
He wanted to go into law enforcement, but he wasn't really sure if that's what he truly wanted to do or if that was just a childhood dream.
Everything fell into place. They had 4 beautiful kids, bought a house in Fenton, and Chad was suiting up in blue.
Chad loved his job. He really did. It was very obvious. If you met him, he loved his job. He really enjoyed what he was doing.
But it all changed on the morning of August 28th. Chad was on patrol, riding his state police motorcycle on Dixie Highway. An elderly driver hauling an empty trailer decided to abruptly change lanes, hitting Wolf and dragging him several miles. Wolf didn't make it. The driver is now facing felony charges of reckless driving causing death. After the accident, an outpouring of love and support followed. Thousands attending Chad's funeral, offering condolences, and Erin once again found herself forced to accept another change.
We went from a very private life to a very public life overnight.
Cards, gifts, even strangers knocking at her front door.
I still receive letters in the mail, whether it's through the post or whether it's through my school or whether it's here at home from people. I received 3 last week. Erin, just wanted to let you know that we're still thinking about you. We're still praying for you. We love you.
Reminders, she calls them, of just how much people love, but sometimes a distraction in her fight to create a sense of normalcy for her 4 children.
I think they're still a little bit in shock, but we have a good time talking about their dad, telling stories about what he has done or what he would have done or how he would have reacted.
And she worries her 2 youngest may forget their dad.
I've tried to make sure that we are talking about Chad and what he would have done or vacations that we've gone on or that reminded me of your daddy for my youngest 2, not for my oldest 2, because I think they're old enough that they have memories.
Memories that she too holds on to, putting her trust in God that He will carry her and her children in their darkest days.
On the days when it's really hard, it's not just me, it's Him, and I'm okay with that because He's got a hold of me. I read somewhere that they wanted us to be there.
And she knows her God will be holding her on that trip to D.C., that trip for Police Week in May. Her husband and father of her children's name, Chad Wolf, will be permanently added to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial.
And that's why he went to work, was to shine his light, to let people see that in this dark world there is something more and something bigger to live for. So even in our darkest days, God is there.
David Custer, WNEM TV5.